A Funny Taste in Music with Andrew Bird.
Hello, I'm Andrew Bird. I'm a comedian and I love music and I love talking to comedians. So I had myself an idea. I'm going to do a podcast because I don't think there's enough podcasts in the world. It's a podcast called A Funny Taste in Music. It's talking to funny comedians about music they love. Because I think like music is like Fran Healy said, they're like bookmarks in the book of your life. And when you talk about music and songs, it reminds you of certain points. And you can't really describe why you love bands so much. You can't put your finger on it. But I want to hear people try to tell me why music and bands mean so much to them. Right, so in this first episode, I'm talking to Jared Christmas. I've known Jared since I started stand-up, since right before I moved to London. He was one of them people, you know, when you meet someone and they're already smiling as you're introduced to them, as though they're looking at you as though they already know who you are. And you straight away, you feel like, well, I think we're going to be friends. I can sense we're going to be friends. He was one of them. So I've known him for a long time. He's a brilliant, brilliant comedian, really funny. Does not take himself too seriously. Yeah, he'll dance with a top off. That sums him up. So here is Jared Christmas.
A Funny Taste in Music. The interview next.
How are you feeling?
More nervous than you should be to talk to someone you know about something you like.
And have you done notes and stuff? Have you got questions?
I've written down Jared Christmas question mark.
That is,
and I'm going to go from definite. There. No, I've written down some sort of, I thought, standard questions you should ask people about music, and then some Jared Christmas tailored
Lovely.
Ones. So I feel like I've done, you know, it's not going to be just aimless waffle.
Yeah, love it.
Although that would be all right.
Yeah, well, music for me is very much emotion-driven and memory-driven.
What the fuck are you on about? We started.
Have we?
Well, I've been recording everything, so I don't feel a big formal introduction is.
No, I think that should definitely be that. That feels like a good start, doesn't it? Me hosting a podcast and not being completely aware it started, swearing at the guest in the first minute.
This is
after him saying something quite profound. I feel like this is a perfect.
Mate, it's just a conversation, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's go then. Let's podcast. Let's do this. So was you serious then, what you said about music?
Yeah, because I've spoken to you a lot about music and I understand how passionate you are about Crowded House, how passionate you are about Oasis. And I just have never been obsessive about one particular band. You know, like our mutual friend Al Pitcher is obsessed with U2 and has travelled around the world watching U2 at concerts. I've never had that with any band, but I absolutely love music.
You're not a first ideal guest.
But I absolutely love music, mate.
You do. To be fair, you do that. You did. I mean, yeah. You text me the other day. Heard the new Crowded House song. That's the level I want.
Well, you know, I'm aware of things, and that song is really good. And I do love Crowded House, but I am not obsessive on them. Do you know what I mean? Like I would happily sit and listen to you wax lyrical about Crowded House and enjoy that conversation, but I probably would not be able to meet you on knowledge.
Yeah. So you're fascinated a bit by other people's obsession with bands. Like you love music generally.
Yeah, all over the place.
Do you remember the first time that you sort of like, because you've got is your brother older?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Did he not like influence / tell you what to listen to?
He was heavily into Guns N' Roses. And I avoided Guns N' Roses because of that.
Yeah, it does do that. My brother was mental in Radiohead.
Right.
And Radiohead are undoubtedly a great band, but there's nothing for me because he forced it on me so much. So is that what happened with you, Guns N' Roses?
Yeah, it is. And also, I'm with you on Radiohead. I fully respect Radiohead. I fully respect what they do. They've got a couple of tracks that I really, really love. My wife Amelia loves them. And I just haven't been able to jump on board. It's just not... They haven't... Some of their songs don't sit well in my ears, Andrew.
Yeah. Do you know, weirdly, I kind of got more into Radiohead and liked them more via Crowded House.
What?
As you know. Well, and weirdly, I got into the Smiths via Crowded House as well, because there's that live gig of Neil Finn and Friends, Seven Worlds Collide, that he did in Auckland, and he formed a supergroup.
Yes.
And he got, who was it? Phil Selway from Radiohead, Ed O'Brien from Radiohead, Johnny Marr, and he had Eddie Vedder, and he just had a supergroup and did a load of Crowded House solo songs and then a Smith song and a load of other songs. And from that, I went, oh, they're all right then, out of Radiohead. It took via New Zealand for me to sort of like Radiohead.
Do you think
that's how much?
Do you think that's the point of a supergroup? Do you know what I mean? When someone as respected as Neil Finn brings in all these people, do you think there is that thought of, look, we're all going to play together, and like, you know, people are going to ricochet off and listen to your music, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think that
it's like a package show?
Yeah, it is.
In a way.
Like,
but yeah,
mate, it's like a packet of mixed sweets, isn't it? You know,
like a box of Celebrations.
Yes. Yeah, I'm buying. I don't really know what's in Celebration. Oh yeah, I'm buying the Celebrations for the Snickers, but then I discover the Milky Way. Yeah.
You've not had a Milky Way for ages.
Yeah.
And you think, I didn't really like them as a kid, but now I do. That's exactly what it is.
Totally.
Exactly what it is. But
go on, hit me.
So yeah, Guns N' Roses, and then from that.
So I was heavily influenced by what my parents were listening to. Obviously, I think that's quite a big thing.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, and my parents were really, really into. They had a soundtrack from a TV show called Tour of Duty, which was about the Vietnam War. So it was all that Vietnam War era stuff. You know, it was all Rolling Stones. HQ Park by the Small Faces, and what was it?
Sort of psychedelic protest.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah, and I love that album so much so that when I moved to the UK in 2000, I stole the CD, left the case. So on their CD tower storage thing, they thought they still had it, didn't they? Until 3 months after I'd gone, and they were like, let's put on that CD.
Not knowing it's on the other side of the planet. That's unforgivable. And my wife does that in the car, where she takes the CD out and just puts it in the nearest CD case. And it's tested the marriage.
Yeah, I bet it has. That is tough. That is a tough move.
So their youngest son's moved out. They've got the house to themselves. They've poured themselves a glass of wine, thinking, let's have a night in, listen to that favourite album of ours. It's not there.
Not there.
So did you listen to that a lot when you moved to London to remind you of home? Was it like a comfort blanket, or you just like the songs?
I guess a little bit, because that's the thing of why I said for me music is an emotional thing for me. If a song, no matter who's done it, no matter who it's by, if it taps into something, I'm there, mate. I'm into it. And that. You know, that's the reason why my brother used to get so angry with me, because he would hear me blasting my music from my room, and I'd go from Nirvana to Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
So yeah.
So
well, you've got no loyalty.
My mixtapes were brutal. Absolute. Every song was a sharp gear change. I'm listening. I've got a playlist for that I've named Drive, so I can just put it on, I've got about 100 songs on there. Probably I keep adding to it, right? And just chuck it on shuffle. And should I give you a rundown of some of the songs that are in there?
Man.
Because it is all over the shop, mate. Here we go. We've got a bit of Stevie Nicks.
Yeah. Good driving
Got a bit
music.
of REM. We've got a bit of
Highway on the highway in America.
We've got Motley Crue.
You're on your way to a gig in Farnham.
We've got Motley Crue. We've got Tom Petty. Right. We've got the Beatles.
Oh, God, love
Here we go. We've got Nick Kershaw.
Oh.
We've got Black Eyed Peas, and we've got the Fine Young Cannibals. We've got Green...
Black Eyed Peas? Fine Young Cannibals.
We've got Justin Timberlake, and we've got Green Day.
Hang on, it started.
We've got the Cranberries, and we've got a Tribe Called West. Tribe Called Quest, sorry.
About a bit now,
it's all over the place. Smashing Pumpkins. Then I've got Blackstreet. Third Eye Blind. Then we've got Presidents of the United States of America. Violent Femmes. Then we've got Crash Test Dummies, mate. We've got Cake.
Presidents of the United States of America. What was that?
She's Lump. Again?
Oh yeah, of course it was. She's a lump.
And she's in my head.
It was.
We've got
I can imagine.
Mate, AC/DC, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Bon Jovi, The Killers, Billy Joel, Toto.
Wow, this is a good journey. But you would have that as a playlist. You're not striking me as someone who gets a lot out of an album.
Oh no, I really do get a lot out of an album. So yeah.
You like to go on a journey of an album.
Okay, well, the album that really got its fingers into me as a teenager was Nirvana.
Yes.
Why can't I? Smells Like Teen Spirit, that one.
Hey, why can't I think of the title of that album now? Neither of us. One of the biggest. Never mind.
That's it.
One of the biggest albums of all time. Never mind. I bet the problem was both of us. All we could think was a baby swimming.
Yeah, Willie.
After a dog.
Baby's Willie. That's all I was thinking. Baby's Willie.
That's something else we need to talk about. I had that as well as a teenager. I remember I got a Nirvana T-shirt. Do you remember the Nirvana T-shirt with like the face on it? Yeah. And my brother he was mental into Radiohead before that, Nirvana. And he had long hair, played the guitar, smoked weed in his room all day. My other brother used to call him Grebo. And I remember him saying to me, I'm wearing a Nirvana T-shirt. And on some level, I thought he might be impressed by that. And he looked at it and went, oh my God, that is so commercial. That is everything Kurt Cobain hates. That's why he killed himself. They just blamed me for his suicide.
Well, I think he had a part. I think he had a part to play, mate.
It was a very small part, but I contributed. It doesn't feel good. So you went from Guns N' Roses, very American, isn't it?
Well, I was never into Guns N' Roses. So when I was a kid, I remember my musical awakening was listening to. There was a radio station in Christchurch, New Zealand, that had something called the Hot 9 at 9, and it was the top 9 songs on commercial radio. And I was probably 12 years old, and I used to go to say to mum and dad, I'm going to bed, because I had to go to bed around about 9 o'clock. But then I would sit with my headphones on and listen to the Hot 9 at 9. And then the next day at school, just talk about those songs with my mates. And I'd never done that before. And it was all... Yeah. And I know it was all commercial. Do you know the main song I remember from it is from that time, 1992, is Jimmy Nail. I don't want nobody else, that's true. She's lying. Do you remember that song? She's lying.
Vaguely, yeah. I remember.
That song, just when I first started listening to the Hot 9 at 9, that was in the Hot 9 at 9 for months. But anyway,
that. It didn't go. They didn't go top 10. They've gone Hot 9 at 9.
Yeah.
I like that. But I imagine that. And could you remember the mates Can you remember the names of the friends that you spoke to about?
Yeah,
music?
so there were the two Scotts, Scott Agnew and Scott Pickett. And Scott Pickett, I gave him the clunky nickname of Pickett, Lick It, Roll It, Flick It. And Scott Agnew, I gave the very clunky nickname of Aganooga Choo Choo. And then there was Dean, who I gave him the nickname Headphones Harry. I sound like a really annoying kid. Because he wore headphones all the time. He was the one who got me into Nirvana.
Yeah, he sounds a prime.
Yeah, because he at lunchtime at school, he would just walk around the school with his headphones on. And
I was a bit like that.
And he didn't interact with anyone. I mean, he'd come up and say hi and chat to you for a bit, but then he'd just wander off listening to his Walkman. I remember the person who really changed my listening habits was another friend called Kurt, who now is in a band and is a regular sort of DJ and stuff in New Zealand. But he stayed over at my house when I was about 13, and he said, "What music are you into?" And nobody had ever asked me that question before.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember the first time someone asked me what music I mean. I think it was older than 13. That's quite young.
Mate,
that,
this is vividly imprinted in my mind because it was very early on in me and Kurt's friendship. You know, it was the first time he was staying over at the house. Big. That's big, right?
Yeah.
This is a huge leap of faith in a friendship, right? And we were in my room, and he said, "What music are you into?" And I didn't really have an answer. So I kind of just said Meatloaf, right?
Wow.
And because my parents listen to Meatloaf, and I don't care. I still like Meatloaf. I don't think it's amazing, but
voice,
he has, and I love the journey he takes us on, and I love how ridiculous the songs are. Anyway, that taps into a lot. You know me. I like ridiculous things, and Meatloaf is absolutely ridiculous. So I said Meatloaf, and he didn't have any judgment in his eyes when he said, no, when he said, "You should try listening to this." And he puts in a cassette of REM, and oh my God, I would say REM for me has been the band all the way through for me.
Yeah. Do you remember what album was it? The one with Man on the Moon?
It had the first song he played was "Losing My Religion," and that hooked me straight in. And then, my teenage years were filled with, Automatic for the People, the Monster album. I was working at a supermarket, and before going to work, I bought the Monster album, and then I volunteered to push trolleys that night. In the pouring rain, so I had to be outside in the rain collecting up trolleys and returning them inside, and just 5 hours non-stop of that, because I knew under my jacket hood I could be listening to that album.
I've got an image, yeah. You've cleared yourself up some free music.
Yeah, absolutely, and got paid for it at the same time. So that was... certainly that Monster album was huge for me. Whenever I listen to that now, I'm immediately transported back to those days.
To sort of early to mid.
Yeah, probably 95, I think it came out, maybe.
Wow, that makes you realise how massive REM were. That I had a similar kind of thing. You're in New Zealand, I'm in Northampton, and I remember me and my brother had bunk beds. And going to bed at night, and his mate, he used to walk his dog for him. He was older than him, Mark Govia. He'd lent him on tape the album. I can't remember the name of the album now, but the one with Man on the Moon on it.
Automatic for the People, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. And I remember going to bed at night listening to that every night. I thought that
came out in '92. That came out in '92.
Right.
And I used to have a joke about being at house parties, and as soon as people put on that Automatic for the People album, it was like, all right, this party's wrapped up now. Do you know what I mean? Because as soon as you hear Night Swimming, it's like, yeah, I get it. We're winding things down. You're not telling us to leave immediately, but we're just bringing the mood down from blasting out the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of melancholy. Talk about how we feel about each other.
But that automatic for the...
And let's start walking out into the night
Okay,
air.
so it must have been... it was Out of Time would have been the album that he played to me. That's... that's with Shiny Happy People and with... Oh, my God, with Stand. Stand in the place that you live. And REM's just been a constant all the way through. I saw them at Glastonbury and absolutely loved it. But in my teenage years, mate, I had REM, but then I heavily got into dance music.
Did you? I never.
Well,
did.
I
never did. I stayed with.
I wanted to dance, mate.
Yeah, you still do. That's where we differ. I want to sit in the corner with my headphones on. But so you were really in REM, and then what sort of dance music? Because I never got into any dance music. Did you? With dance music, you don't buy albums with dance music?
I would buy dance albums that had
what, like best of?
Well, like now that's what I call music, not that specific album, but that style where it's a compilation of dance hits. 2 Unlimited were always on there.
I remember them.
Because when I got to 16, that's when I started going to nightclubs and stuff like that, underage, and I wasn't drinking, mate. The ones I hit up, there were 3 nightclubs in Christchurch. That there was more than 3, but there were 3 specific ones that had dance competitions. There was Bailey's 818. There was a place called Azure, and then there was the incredibly named Jet Set Lounge. And they played lounge music and funky music, and so those were the 3 places I'd go to get into the dance competition.
Hang on, teenagers. There's dance competitions for... But you
I shouldn't have been an adult.
Did you need to be 18?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So they have dance competitions for adults?
Well, they would do... It wasn't like a... Look, it was a competition in the sense that the DJ would go, okay, everybody, and if you want to win a free jug of beer and a beer mat, get on the dance floor.
Right.
That sort of thing. And when I was 16, I'd be going in with my mates, and they're like, let's keep a low profile. And then we go in, because we're all underage, right? We go in, and next thing they're like, oh, God, Jared's won the dance competition.
Let's keep a low profile. You're stood up there in the trophy ceremony, receiving the drink you don't drink.
Exactly. But they loved it, because then I would give them the jug of beer, and wait for them to finish it, and then I'm like, let's hit Bailey's 818. Their dance competition starts at 9.
So you doubled up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when and then from dance music I started transitioning heavily into hip hop. So this is why I love hip hop, mate, but equally I absolutely adore REM, Red Hot Chili Peppers. So
see, that's the thing you're saying about me, that like I'm obsessed with one band, but then on the other hand, you've got more of you're sort of probably more open-minded with music. I'm a bit blinkered. Where if they ain't got a guitar, then I am not.
It's not a band, is it, mate?
You've gone dance.
It's not a band if there's no guitar.
Hip hop. No, it's not a band. It's a man with a laptop. I can't connect, but I should, because loads of dance music comes across in guitar bands.
There's loads of guitar in dance music. It's just synthed, isn't it?
Yeah, like all the 90s kind of Britpop came. A lot of that came out of like Manchester. The dance started with dance, and but I just don't want to. I just never got into it.
You know what I've started doing, mate? I've started going back and listening to bands that I think I should have been listening to. I'm on a real buzz on The Who at the moment, and just never listened to them.
Yeah.
And then listening to them, I'm like, this is incredible stuff.
Because it's one of them bands that, like, I had that. I was a bit like that with the Smiths. I know what you mean. Like, you know they're brilliant, you know they're excellent, but you've heard sort of their singles, and you think, well, I know that then that'll do it. But then when you actually
you dig deeper,
put a bit of effort into it, and listen to dig a bit deeper, listen to some album tracks.
But I go through phases of just being obsessive over certain bands. So I know both of us share a love of Tom Petty, and my love of Tom Petty came about in 2001 when I did a tour of Canada, and we had to drive from Winnipeg to Edmonton, which is straight through, probably 26-hour drive, I think.
Shit.
And my flatmate at the time in London, I was explaining these big journeys, and he said, well, you need road trip music. And I was like, yeah, I've got Backstreet Boys, and I've got blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? And he said, no, you need
He said, no.
He said, you need Tom Petty for a journey like that. And
he was right. He's a good
mate,
flatmate.
he was absolutely correct.
And you'd not listen to Tom Petty really at that point.
I knew Free Falling.
Yeah, you knew the big ones, but you didn't really put together. He'd done all of them.
And so he gave me the, I think it was a Greatest Hits album. And you have not lived until you're 15 hours into a 25-hour journey across the plains of Canada, where you can't see any hills, there's no water, it's a road disappearing over the horizon. And one of my fondest memories was in the middle of the night, we're in this van, there was 5 of us in a van, hot seating the driving. And we pull off the road and just drive out into the prairie and stop. And we're blasting out Tom Petty. And it was I Won't Back Down. And we all get out of the car and we're dancing and singing Amongst Fireflies to Tom Petty.
Wow.
And, mate, I was 21, I think. And, so it's 19 years later, and that song still conjures up that amazing feeling I had doing that. Yeah.
That song, I got into Tom Petty miles after you, and that I got into him kind of through Travelling Wilburys. Again, like you said. Supergroup. Take what you want from it. I listened to I got the Travelling Wilburys album, and there's a box set, and it's got a DVD showing them making the album.
Yes.
And I bought it, I think, purely because of George Harrison, and I heard how great this album was. So I heard it, thought he's in it. And
wait,
Bob
was this
Dylan.
quite recently? Was this like 2010?
No. Probably about 2008.
Yeah, because the Travelling...
When I did my first Edinburgh show.
Yeah, because the Travelling Wilburys released that... It was a re-release or something. It was a massive CD.
Oh, that must have been it.
Yeah, it was like a double CD, and it had loads of info on them all. Do you know what I mean? Like a booklet in it, and possibly a DVD as well. I think that's it, because I got that as well.
Travelling Wilburys. If you've not heard that, that first album, it shows them song by song how they made each song, and you think Roy Orbison, and honestly, I was like, who's the other bloke then? Don't really know who that is. The blonde there, who's he then? He's pretty good. He's singing a bit. Must be pretty. They must like him.
He was the youngest one, wasn't he?
Pretty good if they like.
Wasn't he the youngest one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He's definitely younger than George Harrison and Bob Dylan. And my wife is from Slovakia. And her dad used to like Tom Petty, and he was on MTV all the time. He was a big MTV. The videos of Tom Petty. So I didn't know who he was. She was like, "You don't know who Tom Petty is?" Being lectured by a Slovakian on music. I was like, no. And I did that. I got into him through that, and I saw him at Hyde Park. And when that opening guitar bit for "Won't Back Down," oh my lord, just smashes you in the face, doesn't it? So I can imagine that out in a field in the middle of nowhere, a load of mates in a van.
And fireflies, mate.
Incredible.
I'd never seen fireflies in my life. and I wasn't on drugs. I was stone cold sober, mate, and it was
a natural high.
And when I hear people talking about these incredible drug trips they have, I keep thinking, well, that sounds like what I had with Tom Petty and a Firefly.
That is a perfect description.
I'm jealous that you got to see him, but
yeah, I'm glad I did, because it was in I think it was in like the July, and then he died in the October.
Yeah, you saw him at I remember Hyde Park, right?
Hyde Park, yeah. I remember clearly when we had chickens. The last chickens died. R.I.P. When you used to put in the chicken coop bit, you used to put newspaper in, so you could just clear that out. And I opened the Metro, used to steal the Metro, a big pile of them from the train station. Not really stealing, they're free, but I take a pile to use for the chicken coop. And I opened it out, middle page spread, Tom Petty. If it weren't for that, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. And I remember thinking, he's pretty old now. He doesn't tour often. I've got to go see him.
That was a smart move.
But yeah, that must have been amazing, on a massive journey in Canada, just with the greatest hits. So every time you hear that greatest hits now,
I love that album. If I'm on, I quite often put it on in the car, and there's a big grin on my face, even though I'm driving to Loughborough, to do some gig in Loughborough, and all I'm thinking about.
Well, there's roadworks, there's a junction closed, but you're learning.
Yeah, I am, mate.
So it's all right.
And I ain't got wings. I ain't got wings.
No, I'm coming down. It's the hardest thing. But do you know what, I've done that where I've got a new album on in the car. I'm like, really look forward to it. Right, I've got a car journey. I'm putting this new album on, and then there'll be a road closed. I'll be on the M6 going to Manchester, and there'll be 2 lanes closed, and it'll be like a 45-minute delay. And I'll turn the album off because I don't want that album to be coloured by the horrible feeling of stuck in. Because every time I listen to that album now, I get this horrible gut-wrenching hatred from somewhere, and it'll be coloured by that. The opposite of driving through Canada.
But
in many ways,
that's the thing, is that songs, they tap into music. Taps into your core more than anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I bet you've got amazing memories attached to certain songs that will never go away, but you haven't got that with a joke a comedian's told, or I don't know, a piece of artwork or something like that. I'm not belittling those other crafts and artworks, but music just, I don't know what it is. It taps into something, man. And what I worry is that kids these days don't just lie in their bedroom listening to music for 2 hours, which is what I used to just go into my room and put on an album and potter around in my room. I loved it. Yeah, they don't. I don't think they listen to full albums anymore on Spotify. It's just, in some ways that must be good, younger kids, because they're flying through loads and loads of different bands and different songs and. So at the moment, I listen to a lot of music with my oldest daughter Maggie, driving her to and from school, and I keep laughing because it's the complete opposite of what my relationship with my parents was like with music, as in I was influenced by what they were listening to, whereas now my daughter's influencing what I listen to. Do you know what I mean? Because we listen to what she wants to listen to. I suppose. I'm a big fan of like introducing her to stuff, and she likes stuff that I've introduced her to. But we're on a real George Ezra kick at the moment.
Nice, I like.
He's great.
Yeah. I like him.
He's great,
and I got into him through my oldest son singing at. I think they sing him at school.
Yeah, I think so.
So has Maggie got Where's she getting her music? Has she got a phone?
Yeah, or she just uses my phone or Amelia's phone. So Rob Deering introduced her to Sigrid, and Sigrid is fantastic. We stumbled upon Sia. I tell you what it was. I saw the Chandelier song on a Saturday Night Live sketch, and was like, well, this is... I don't know what they're taking the piss out of, but I like the song and I like what they're doing. So I then looked at the music video, and that blew me away. And then I showed it to the kids, and they loved it. So as a family, we are really into Sia. And what I like about Sia and Sigrid is I can see the lyrics meaning something to my daughters. Like driving to school if Maggie's a bit tired, a bit low, and she cranks on some Sia, and it's all empowering woman songs, songs called Unstoppable, where, lyrics like I'm unstoppable today, I don't need batteries, all that sort of stuff. And I just see you lifting up. And so for me, that music's in me now. Do you know what I mean? Because I've seen an impact. And that's why I will always love The Greatest Showman. Because I saw the effect it had on my kids. And now...
That's the thing with kids. They haven't got any sort of... kind of, in a way, they've got no sort of snobbery about music. If they like it, they like it. And that's
exactly.
It.
I mean, look, she listens to some absolute dog shit that disappoints me, that it's even going into her head. But there are some absolute beacons of joy that she is listening to. And, the 8-year-old, I don't think she's really formulated she's just going along with what everyone else is listening to at the moment. So I'm really looking forward to when she starts going, no, this is what I like. This is what I want to listen to. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that moment.
Yeah, my two children find it quite weird. So like yesterday, for example, I pretty much was in the kitchen most of the day. I had music on. I have an iPad and a speaker. That's how I listen to music.
Good combination, mate. Good combination.
In the kitchen only. Good CD player in the living room, but you're doing most of your stuff in the kitchen. And I put a song on, and then it's got that YouTube thing where you just then, it just plays into other songs that are linked to that. And so I had that on all day. And my son said to me, do you just have music on all day? It's like, well, yeah, why would you have silence when you can listen to Crowded House?
I think
so. They find it quite weird. My sons have never been.
Can we just soundbite what you just said? Why would you have silence when you can listen to Crowded House?
Yeah, that should be
at least on underpants.
Well, that's already early interview. That's the merch sorted. Yeah, but but they do find it quite weird. But what I like as well is it's funny that my son's Rag and Bone Man. They were singing that at school, so they kind of got me into that.
That guy's got an incredible voice. And
and it's great seeing your kids like someone who can really
belt something out. That's why I really like God, what's his name? He can belt shit out. Scottish guy.
Lewis
Capaldi. Oh, mate, that guy can sing a bloody song.
Oh, he's one of them though as well. I would say like Elton John, where his voice does not match his appearance. Not at all. I mean that is hard. I don't mean that to be harsh.
But when I first got into him, was someone shared a clip of him before I even knew what any of his songs were. I think Noel Gallagher had slagged him off, or Liam had.
That's how I found out about him.
It was Noel. So Noel slagged him off, and his clip of him responding to it, he was just so delighted. He was like, Noel Gallagher knows who I am. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you've seen, but he's done a couple of really high-profile gigs where he's performed with a T-shirt with Noel Gallagher's face on it.
Yeah, because how old is he? He's like early 20s. So to be slagged off by Noel Gallagher is must be great. It must be like a trophy for a young musician. Because as Noel Gallagher said, I can't remember what he said about him, but I forgot what the radio interviewer was, Scottish bloke, and he said, I like Lewis Capaldi. And Noel Gallagher goes, well, Scottish always like each other, don't they? Like, oh, Hitler, he was just misunderstood. If he was Scottish, they'd go, oh, Hitler's just misunderstood. But but Lewis Capaldi, he's got that. Yeah, he does not suit his voice. You cannot believe that voice comes out of him. He's amazing. And
his album is just a little bit of piano and then him belting out a bloody tune, which is great. I love it all.
My two sons have kind of there's a lot of Crowded House they like. I was going to ask you because hey, before we do this, can you hold this? Can you hold this? Because my bladder's full. I'll just talk you through what I did this morning. I drank, I would say, a pint of water as soon as I woke up because I got it into my head. I need to be really, really refreshed to face the day, and I don't really drink enough water. So I downed a pint, then I had a cup of tea, and just before doing this, I had about 300 millilitres of a juice, like a mango-orange combo, and then I had another water. And my bladder is now saying to me, dude, since 7 a.m, we've had 3 hours of a whole heap of liquid. I need to get rid of some of this. Yeah, you're not. You've mixed liquids and measurements there. It's all over the place. I know.
So, can you pause and seriously time me though, because I am in the living room. I've got to go to the next room and then into the utility room that has a toilet. So I like to call it the poo-tility room, and I reckon I'll be quicker than you think I should be, right? Because I'm pretty confident.
I reckon we should keep all this in there. Right, you ready?
I'm pretty confident I'm the fastest pisser in the West.
All right, go on.
All right.
Hang on. 1, 2, 3, go. Well, this definitely needs to stay in, doesn't it?
I think so.
I can hear him in the background as well, clanking. Well, that's 10 seconds.
You might hear the flush.
Well, that's the definite end point. Are we counting it? Yeah, we've got to count it from when he gets back, not when he flushes. That's 25 seconds.
Yeah, I've got 25.
Oh, that's not that quick. I thought it'd be quicker than that. That's 30 seconds. I can imagine he's really grimacing right now.
And I'm back. How long was that?
35 seconds.
No.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
35 seconds?
Not bad, all right, fair enough.
It's pretty good. I mean, I pissed my pants, but it was still pretty good.
You haven't washed your hands and you've got a dribble.
Oh.
You got a pant dribble.
No pant dribble.
Well, I've
got some shakes in there.
No? Yeah, well, you're a man of 40 like me. We've both got to get checked.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm worried about. I'm thinking of doing the old 40-year-old check and getting the prostate check because isn't one of the signs of the prostate desperately needing the toilet a lot? But then I do nervously drink water a lot and a lot of coffee, so then that might not be prostate.
So I was.
But get it checked, everyone.
Get it checked, everyone.
Yeah, you included.
I've got a friend who's a doctor, and I said to him, I think I need to get my prostate checked. And he said, okay, well, just book it in with the GP. And I was like, yeah, it's just because I'm weeing a lot during the night. And he said, okay. And he said, but before you go, what do you drink before going to bed? And I had been doing a pot of like peppermint tea or herbal tea, like a whole pot.
A pot of tea, not a cup.
A pot.
You've done a pot of tea before
bed? Probably taking on at least a litre of tea, of herbal tea before going to bed. And he said, how about you stop doing that and then
I don't have to put my finger
see
up your ass.
See if you need to get your ring piece fingered.
So So you went,
cut that out.
You eliminated tea first.
Cut it down
yeah?
to 1 cup, and I'm all right now. But
so you only had to put it in a bit.
he just had to suggest it, and it was enough.
Yeah. You got the all clear then?
No, I haven't.
That's good. Get checked, everyone.
Play with your balls as well, guys. Play with your balls. Look for those lumps.
You're not now, Jared.
She's lump. She's lump. She's on my nuts.
We talk about Crowded House. Of course
we were. It's Andrew Bird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the thing, though, with you. I kind of racially profiled you that because you're from New Zealand, that means you must love Crowded House. But what was it like growing up in Christchurch? Were Crowded House just everywhere all the time, so you didn't really think much of it? So that, you didn't really get into them because they were just, you took them for granted.
I did.
Was it like that?
It was absolutely like that because they were always there, along with Dave Dobbin, and Salmonella Dub. I
don't know them. Are they big New Zealand bands?
Yeah, Dave Dobbin's massive.
I did not know
that. It wasn't really until getting over to the UK that I started going, oh yeah, Crowded House is really good, aren't they? Because in New Zealand it was just, I never had one of the, my parents had Crowded House albums. Do you know what I mean? So Crowded House was always around. Do you know what I mean? But I never felt this pull towards them until being over here. And actually you being your enthusiasm for them, really, because I found it weird that I was like, why is this guy from Northampton really into Crowded House?
That is, it is weird. What I find weird about Crowded House, I don't know what you think of this. When I tell people how much I love Crowded House, I've had a bit of pushback.
What?
I've had a bit of a what? Crowded House? No one. I don't think they get the respect they deserve, because I think what it is, I think Travis have got a bit of this as well, that they're a bit light-hearted and wacky in some of their videos. So I don't think people take them that seriously. If they took themselves really seriously, like Radiohead, then maybe people would respect them more.
Are they?
There's a bit of that.
Are they classed as a stadium band? Crowded House.
Crowded House.
Do you know what I mean? They're not on the level of. Would they headline the Pyramid Stage at Glastonbury?
No, they wouldn't headline. They're not. No.
See, but that's a shame. If they were headlining at Glastonbury on the Pyramid Stage, I'd say, yeah, that's right. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be going, what are they doing?
Well, they're without doubt one of the best live bands I've ever seen. There's that thing on Farewell to the World. They played the gig, as you know, on the Sydney Opera House steps, their last ever gig in '96, I think. And that's like a stadium, basically. But that on that extra features of that video, when it was I had it on video, there's a thing of Nick Seymour saying 1 year at the Brits they were voted best live band above Pearl Jam, U2 and Radiohead and R.E.M.
Wow!
So, I mean, they're respected as a live band. I don't know if it was Radiohead, actually. No, I don't think it was. But it was definitely R.E.M., U2.
Do you reckon they're a
Pearl Jam?
A musician's musician? A band's band?
I think so. Are they seen as a... Do you think people just see them as a band of the sort of late 80s? Because they...
Yeah, maybe.
Because I never got into them when they were at the time. They were massive in England. I remember Weather With You, obviously. That was huge and that was everywhere. And that's why I didn't get into them. I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then I got into them when I moved to London, worked in a pub, and what got me into them was there was a Kiwi girl who was leaving the pub. She worked in the pub. She was going travelling. And there was I've told you about this bloke, I'll mention him a few times on this probably, Dan Brinklow. I nicknamed him Jukebox because he was even more obsessive about music than me. I'd never met anyone more obsessed with music than me till I met him. And he knows I don't claim to know everything about music. I'm like a football fan of music. I'm passionate and thick. I don't know anything, but he introduced the acoustic night upstairs in the
Right.
pub. At the end of the night, it was like we had a lock-in. We had like a leaving drinks for her, and everyone was drunk. And he's got his guitar and he's playing in the corner of the pub where someone would play covers. And he played sort of drunk and half ironically, Better Be Home Soon to her. Right, so all the girls are crying their eyes out. All the Aussie and Kiwi girls are all crying. Most of the English don't really understand. He's singing it half laughing, knowing that it's funny, that they're all taking it seriously and crying. But even him drunk, playing ironically, I remember thinking, that's an unbelievable song. Who's that? Who is that? I thought it was his at first. I went, did you write that? And he's going, no, it's Crowded House,
mate.
And I was like, all right. I thought, oh, whether were you? No, he was like, yeah. I remember saying, well, they got other good songs, have they? And he went, and then the next day he brought in Recurring Dream, the best of. And I took it home, and I remember not getting past Better Be Home Soon for about a month. I just listened to that, and that was it. For a month, non-stop. And then one morning, I'll never forget this, I had a CD player that was my alarm clock. So it was a 3 CD shuffle. You had 3 CDs in at the same time. So the alarm clock on the stereo would play track 1 on CD 1. So I had that in. So I woke up to Whether Were You blaring. And then I couldn't be asked to get out of bed. And I just lay in bed. Like you said, you just have music on for hours in your room. And I lay in bed and listened to, I think it's 17 songs on that album, or 18. And I just lay in bed. And after every one went, fucking hell, that was good. The next one. Shit, that was good as well. Like immediately after every song. And then from that moment, I don't think I've gone more than a month without listening to a Crowded House
that's
song.
huge.
So I was obsessed. So that I put it on people like you all the time. Just because you're from New Zealand, I demand that.
Yeah, but I'm glad you did, because then we were able to go to that gig I was doing with Neil Finn.
Yeah, you can't just say it's casually as that gig I was doing with Neil. No,
at the Savoy Hotel.
We managed to go. You got me in. You really nicely went, you love Crowded House, didn't you? You were doing it was a charity.
For the first Christchurch earthquake, and my wife Amelia was heavily pregnant. She was about to give birth, so she couldn't come. And I was like, I know who likes Crowded House, because Katka came along. She was pregnant as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, so you got 2. You got both of us in.
Well, 3 of you, really.
You must have had to pull some strings.
Nah, mate. Nah. I mean,
but it was
this was obviously, they were more than happy to sort me out for things like that. This was obviously before the gig, because I died on my ass at that gig, if we both remember correctly.
Yeah, but we don't have to dwell on that. It wasn't set up for stand-up.
No, it certainly wasn't.
Let's establish this. Don't start with that. I'll put it out there. Let's show what a good human being you are, Jared. Firstly, you had a corporate in, so you took a gig out that was worth a lot of money. I don't know if you forgot. You won't have forgot that, but I'll tell everyone. So this is the guy you are. You've taken out a big gig, a lot of money, do a gig for charity for nothing. So let's bear that in mind. And knowing you're probably going to die on your ass, which you did.
Oh, well and truly.
Let's make no bones about it.
Within minutes as well, mate.
There's no
Within
way.
like the first 2 minutes, I knew this is going to go terribly.
Oh, yeah, it was awful, but it was nothing you could have done about it. Why is that? Sometimes charity gigs go bad because people are already a bit sanctimonious that they're there.
And it was a very, very moneyed audience. And
oh, yeah, they were quite rich. And there was vineyard things and stuff.
And there was artwork that people were secretly, doing that secret bidding thing on that was selling for 20 grand sort of thing. And I made the mistake of thinking that that heaps of them were New Zealanders, but they weren't. So
no, they weren't, were they? They were a load of mainly posh English people.
And so I went on and said, tried to do a real Kiwi phrase of going, give it up for the girls in the kitchen, marvellous sausage rolls. Because
I remember that clearly.
Because we were eating, I don't know, fillet of steak and stuff like that. Yeah.
I remember the two people who
Yeah.
laughed at that, me and my wife.
I have to say the 3 All Blacks who were in laughed as well. Because that's the only thing that kept me going was you guys, and there were 2 people sitting next to you who owned a winery in New Zealand, and they were laughing, and the 3 All Blacks were laughing, and
Was Sean
Fitzpatrick, Anton Oliver, and Zinzan Brooke.
Now, if there's people who aren't from New Zealand, that is like New Zealand.
It really
royalty.
is.
Even
It
I
is.
know that.
And then there was the New Zealand dancer from Strictly Come Dancing, and the thing that really got me through was Neil Finn saying to me, "Don't worry about this crowd, you're funny."
Did he say it? You've never told me that.
Because I was so low about that.
You never told me that. You told
that
me
I saw him in the.
that he gave you a bit of a weird look after the intro you gave him.
Yeah, but then afterwards is when he said to me about it.
Did he say that after? You've never.
But I told you that in the sound check that Neil Fit, because I'd just done 8 out of 10 Cats, and my one appearance on 8 out of 10 Cats, and I nailed it, mate. I did so well on it that I didn't have to ever go back and do that show again. That's how well I did.
Yeah. No point. You made your point.
And
that night, didn't you?
they all said, mate, you've clocked this. There's really no point you coming back because you've scored the highest score possible. Anyway, Neil Finn had seen that episode of 8 out of 10 Cats, so he's we're doing the sound check, and he's on stage at the Savoy Hotel, and just says, "Geez, I don't know how you're so lightning quick coming up with jokes." He said, "I saw you on 8 out of 10 Cats, and man, that was impressive. That is funny." And all I was thinking was, you've just done the radio show with Flight of the Conchords. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And, you're giving me a compliment like, wow, that's cool. And then he obviously saw that I was feeling a bit like kicked in the guts, teeth, and nuts that night. And so he just said some nice things to me afterwards.
What? You've not told me any of that. You told me that he gave you a weird look after.
Yeah, because you gave me the intro.
No, whoa, no.
Yes, you did.
You had the intro and asked me for information, which I gave you. The joke was yours. I merely gave you the facts. Don't blame me for the joke. But it was funny. It was funny. But you introduced him by doing loads of Crowded House based
puns,
song-based puns.
Yeah.
And
he did give me a weird look, but I think I was in such a low spot.
Yeah,
I took it as a negative thing, and then when he said a positive thing to me afterwards, in hindsight, I looked back and realised the look he gave me was, a look of like, well done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or maybe
that deserves more.
Or maybe
what's wrong with it?
What are you doing?
You took it as what the hell was that, and it was probably what the hell are they? What the hell audience is this?
Yeah,
that's a list of Crowded House puns. Got nothing. We're here for New Zealand, but
nothing. And all my All Blacks jokes got nothing. Yeah,
no,
it was a tough gig.
But even as in some ways as a musician, I've seen musicians being completely ignored in gigs, support acts at gigs and stuff. You see them, you think, oh, I feel for them, but at least they can just plough through. They can just play the songs. With when you're dying as a comedian, you're getting nothing. It's hard to just plough through. But even as a musician, they must get like him that night. The first couple songs he just played acoustic guitar, and you could see quite a lot of posh English people were like, oh, he must be. Probably didn't know who he was. But then when he played a couple of the really well-known hits, and they got up and started dancing, you could see like, as a musician, the difference of the reaction you get. They must get that as well. You finish a song to that can't feel nice either.
Or you just.
But he nailed it. He got the whole dance floor. That makes you, when you see that, it's quite nice seeing that. Think you can see as a proper musician where you can work a crowd to get up and dance.
It was incredible.
Posh people leave their free drink.
That's the level. Have you got any experiences of falling in love with a support band, or going to see another band, but then the band on before them. Okay, so my example is we're at Glastonbury, and we were going to watch Radiohead, and I'm with Amelia and Al Pitcher and Amelia's sister Claude, and Amelia's sister Claude had said, "Oh, we should catch the band that's on before them, because they're really good." And she said their name, and I took the piss relentlessly. And then we got there in time to see them, and they blew my socks off, and I was immediately like, you know, when you hear, I'd never heard any of their songs, even though some of them had been played on the radio. I'd never heard any of their songs. Yeah. But my memory from that Glastonbury was song after song, me just going, holy shit. Holy shit.
You've already mentally bought
this is album, speaking to me. This is it. Wow. And that band was the Killers.
Oh, what? They were
song after song absolutely floored me.
Was it their first album? It must have been their first album.
First album.
Yeah.
Jenny was a friend of mine, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mate. Oh my God. Like, we were there to see Radiohead, and I wasn't a big fan of Radiohead. All the way through Radiohead, I was thinking about the Killers. When am I going to get to listen to them next? I also had it. Glastonbury's been great for introducing me to music. I stumbled across the Zootons at Glastonbury, and that started a pretty decent love affair with the Zootons.
Bass player, now plays with Noel Gallagher.
I did not know that. That's great.
Yeah. The Zootons, a girl that I work with in the pub as well, called Kira, she went to Liverpool University. It's why I really love Liverpool because I used to do
Liverpool
there,
Uni,
like 10-minute open spots, and go and stay with her and go on a night out. I'm not one for a night out, but Liverpool is a good night out. I feel like I had a small university. I went to uni for like about a week in Liverpool from just going up there doing gigs. But he went out with her for the lead singer of Zootons. Had a one-night stand with her. And he wrote a B-side about her called My One Night Stand with My One Night Stand with My Part-Time Freak.
Wow.
Something like that. So he's wrote a song about her and she didn't even know who he was.
That's awesome. Do you know, I did Liverpool Uni, and we were playing to maybe 500-600 students. It was packed. It was with Keith Carter, who was doing his Nige character. Yeah. And in the break, the events guy said, come and see the band we've got in the other room. So we go into the small room. There's probably 12 students in there, and the band on stage were rocking it out like they were playing Wembley. And it was amazing. And
I think I know who you're going to say.
Go on.
Was it
Darkness? It was the Darkness.
I heard about that. You were there then?
And
I was there weeks later, I think. And they told me about that. Well, I was there months later when they got massive, and they said they were here not long ago.
So we delayed the start of the second half because all of us were in watching The Darkness. And
right, I heard about
the events guy kept coming and going, we need to start. And we're like, yeah, just one more song.
I believe in a thing called love, mate.
So it was great.
Yeah, I really got into the Killers. That song. Oh, you got I go back. That one.
I got soul, but I'm not a soldier.
Yeah,
Duncan Oakley did a song on that, going, "I've got plums, but I'm not a plumber." And it just, I don't know if he ever fully committed to it, but at one gig he just did a quick sting of it, and my God, it's so silly that it really tapped in. And now that song for me, I still love that song.
Yeah, I won't be able to listen to that.
But I've got plums, but I'm not a plumber.
He's got to do that again. But I played that song to the point. I remember my house flatmate at the time walking in, and the door was downstairs, the front door, and I remember hearing the door shut and him going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, because I played it so much. But yeah, I got massively into a band that were a support band, and it was seeing Crowded House.
Right.
I saw Crowded House at one year. I saw Crowded House at the Royal Albert Hall, and then 4 days later at Wembley.
Wow.
When I lived,
Which was better?
I lived in London. You could just Royal Albert Hall. Yeah,
Easily.
yeah. But I saw supporting them Duke Special.
Okay.
And I don't think that many people in England will have heard of Duke Special. He's a Northern Irish. I think he's pretty big over there. I don't think he's like massively well known. But yeah, I didn't like, you know, like listen to Crowded House. I wasn't thinking of, but I bought their album that night on the way out.
Yeah.
And the weeks later, I listened constantly to Duke Special when I should have been listening to Crowded House.
You were cheating on Crowded House.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel good about it. I get like that. If I'm going to see a live band, I start doing like the prep months before. If I've been listening to something else, but I'm going to see if I've really got into like the Killers, and in a few months I'm seeing Crowded House, I'll start thinking, right, let's start listening to Crowded House now. Right, Killers.
Do your homework.
I'll have to sit back for a bit.
That's funny.
Better start prepping. I once bought tickets for Stereophonics at the Roundhouse, and I didn't tell Katka that we were going. It was going to be a surprise. We were going to get on the tube, just get out and walk there and just walk in, and she wouldn't know until we walked in.
Yeah.
Right? And she ruined it by constantly asking me where we were going, and I finally just went, just told her, because she did my head in. And she went, I knew we were going to see Stereophonics because you've been listening to them every day for the last 2 weeks. She knew by the prep.
See, I don't...
Did you with the Killers?
Yeah.
With the Killers, the second album I thought was brilliant. I thought that was even better.
Is that
than the
Sam's
first
Town?
album. I love that album.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that album. But then, I don't know what it was. They went a bit, I'd say, gay club anthem for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can imagine they went a bit more dancey.
Yeah, they did.
Imagine men topless dancing to it. It's not a bad thing.
No, it's all right. And I just I like that you have those images running through your head. That's very cool.
Oh, yeah. Constantly. Sometimes not even with music related.
See, I really got into... sometimes Amelia jokes that I'm her, music taste-wise, I'm her gay best friend. Because
That's a good compliment.
bloody love anything with a little bit of disco in it. And so I got obsessed with Justin Timberlake for a while, Scissor Sisters for a while. Yeah. I mean, I still really like all this stuff.
Some catchy tunes.
I still really like all this stuff.
Some catchy tunes, Scissor Sisters.
Yeah.
And you're wanting to take your top off as well. Yeah, that doesn't help.
And I freaking love, always have loved Bonnie Tyler. When I went for an audition for the Pot Noodle ads years ago, and I cannot sing. And these Pot Noodle ads, they wanted singing, and I kept getting a call back. Right, I did 4 callbacks for those bloody adverts, and you know Charlie Baker's there. You know, there's all these comics there who I know can belt out a song, and the final audition, I was waiting in the audition room. Charlie Baker's sitting there. We're having a nice chat, and I'm just thinking he's got this, right? Because he's the look they're after, and the guy has got pipes, and so I walk in. And my first thing I say to the ad guys and the director is, are you guys taking the piss? Like, why am I back here? And the director says, look, I just want to see you. He said, have you got a favourite 80s power anthem? And I said, yes, of course I do. And he said, just...
I like how you would have said that. Proper matter of fact. Yes,
of course I do.
Of course I do.
And he said, just belt it out. He said, well, just... pretend you're at home by yourself, you're full of just the songs filled you with energy, just go for it. And I distinctly remember in my head thinking, fuck it, I'm going all in on this. And I ripped into Bonnie Tyler, Holding Out for a Hero. I was even singing the dun 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 dun. You know, I'm on my knees.
I love it when you sing music parts.
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm on my knees. I closed my eyes for the whole thing because I didn't want to see the look of
committed. How many were there in the room?
There was 5 of them in the room, and I did not want to.
You're doing this to 5 people,
and I did not want to see the looks on their faces of feeling embarrassed for me. And when I came out of it.
He came out of it. You were that committed. You were possessed. When I came out of the trance.
When I came out
the Bonnie Tyler
trance.
Yeah.
They were crying with laughter. The director was on the floor, and I walked out of that audition, and Charlie Baker said, "I am not going in there." And I said, "But you can sing, mate." And he said, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter." He said, "Because I heard the laughter, man." And he said, "I could go in and sing that song pitch perfect, and it won't be as good as that absolute hot mess that you just did in there." And he said, "But the thing about it was funny." And so, of course, I got the Pot Noodle ads from it, which, you know, people take the piss out of it, but, you know, they allowed me to get married and buy a house. So that's all down to Bonnie Tyler financially. Bonnie Tyler holding out for a hero, and
got you the Pot Noodle lad that financed the marriage
and a house.
A marriage you still have.
And I don't have the house anymore, but I have moved on to another house. But I still listen. When I listen to that song, I fucking giggle, thinking back to how hardcore I went on that song. And how much I murdered it. I absolutely murdered that song. Like, Bonnie Tyler would have been weeping. And luckily, the Pot Noodle ads, they wanted someone who couldn't sing but was absolutely going for it. So luckily that was... you know,
that was definitely you. Bonnie Tyler would be ashamed and proud.
I certainly would not
all at the same time.
You know, auditioning for a musical like I don't know, name a musical. It doesn't matter. If I went into an audition for a musical and did that, they would not be laughing. They would be going, "Why is this guy wasting our time?" And I think he needs to see someone professional.
And tell him to get his top back on. Yeah. I imagine you'd be cats as well. You'd be writhing around the floor.
Mate, I'd be licking my bits, everything.
Yeah. Bonnie Tyler got you the Pot Noodle lad. That
ridiculous, ridiculous.
But yeah. So yeah, just to finish up. So we've sort of spoke about the music growing up. And then you moved to London.
Yep.
We kind of moved to London probably around the same time.
November 2000.
I imagine. Oh. A year later, December 2001.
Fair enough.
So a year and a month
Pretty
later.
Close.
So I had the similar kind of, like, you know, you've gone from Christchurch to London. I went from Northampton to London. It might not seem as big, but it was another world.
Yeah.
It was another world. That little town in the middle of nowhere. So, probably like me, I imagine you moved that thing of being in London, in a big city, don't really know anyone, you're starting to stand up, you had a massive mixture in your brain of sort of excitement and fear. Was there a band you were listening, an album or something you were listening to a lot? Because you would have spent a lot of time on trains and the tube with your earphones in, going to gigs. Was there music that you remember that sometimes either gave you a bit of confidence for a gig, or you'd go to, you know...
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Give you a boost before a gig. Yeah. So
what
we talking?
The album that, giving me the boost and getting me in the headset and all that mindset was Bizarre Ride to the Far Side by The Far Side. Which you...
Oh, I don't know that.
It's hip hop.
I probably do know that.
And they aren't like really well known, but they are like hip hop. Do you know what I mean? Like,
all right.
Eminem, mentions how influential they were and stuff like that.
Right.
But I was given that album by a friend who I was into, I was getting into hip hop, and she said, "Well, you should listen to this. This is great stuff." And that was the album that really, mate, for that first year and a bit on the open mic circuit, every time heading to a gig, I was listening to Bizarre Ride to the Far Side. And there's a lot, it's hard to sing along to those songs because there's a lot of MFing and the N-word dropped, and they are catchy songs that I could not sing along to. But I loved that album so hard. And it was still REM Night Swimming when the gig sucked. I was heading home on the district line.
As soon as you said REM Night Swimming, I thought that's not on the way to a gig, sure.
No, that was on the way home.
No, that's
on the way home from a disappointing gig. On the.
Hang on. Let me think. Pear shaped. There's 4 people.
Yeah.
You've got nothing.
Yeah.
You're on the district line. Night swimming.
Deserves a quiet night. Yeah. I got one at the Pear Shaped. But you know what? Those gigs to 4 people at Pear Shaped never bummed me out. Never bummed me out.
No?
It was the gigs where there was everything was set up for me to succeed and I didn't. They're the ones that bummed me out.
Oh, good point.
Going into a room with 4 people and coming away with no result is fine. Going into a room with 4 people and coming away with a result is incredible. Going into a room like the Chuckle Club, where on a Friday night he had 200 people in there, and you're watching comedian after comedian go on and absolutely destroy that room. You've got 8 minutes, and you've got your 8 minutes that you've been honing, and everything in that room is saying you should rip the shit out of this. And it doesn't happen. That is Night Swimming REM time.
That's when you reach for Michael.
Yeah.
Gonna need you on the way home,
Come
Michael.
on.
Yeah.
Stripe 8.
Wow, I thought that for a long time, the Chuckle Club, I went with my mates when I was still living in Northamptonshire before I moved to London, and we all went down to London together. They came with me while I was starting stand-up. I probably only had about 5 minutes, and I died at the Chuckle Club in front of all of my best mates, and they still mention it now. That's like 21 years ago or something, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They still bring it up now. I'll see them now, and they'll go, oh, remember that Chuckle Club? I thought it was just me that died that bad.
No, that gig, I think, I don't know. I mean, I have a gig that back in Christchurch that a load of mates came along to, and I'd been flying high, and they came along to that gig, and I died on my ass, and someone threw a pint glass at me. That was 1998, and I've still got a couple of mates who every now and then will go, "Have you had any pint glasses thrown at you recently?" It's like, it was 1998, mate. Night Swimming deserves a quiet night.
Does not deserve a pint glass thrown.
No way.
It's a district line with that in your earphones. But so, would you? What band or album then would you, if you thought people either haven't heard of it or not even haven't heard of it, but what band? If you were to say to someone, you've got to listen to this at the moment, could be someone you listen to now. What album would you say to someone, you have to listen to this, or song?
I would say Damian Rice.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
You massively into that. Was huge, that album, wasn't it?
Huge fan of Damian Rice, and this is another thing that I was talking about being emotionally attached to an artist, to a band. So Damian Rice, me and Amelia and Al Pitcher stumbled across at Glastonbury. you know, just walking past one of the stages and was like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And Al's wife, Anita. And so that, for the four of us, in the early 2000s, we went to see him everywhere. And that album was the soundtrack of my early relationship with Amelia. And I absolutely still love Damian Rice O. It is an incredible album. His voice is incredible. The woman who sings on it, I can't remember her name right now, hauntingly incredible.
And do you think because you found it by accident, it sometimes means more, doesn't it? Because it feels a bit more like it's something for just you.
Yeah.
Even though it was massive, everyone knows it. You discovered it.
Yeah.
By chance.
Yeah, I think so.
And it links you to Al and Anita and Amelia.
Yeah, and
you all like it.
And that was in the heyday of our friendship. In that, you know, our friendship's still really good, but they all live in Sweden now. But we were living around the corner from each other, and they, you know, the four of us, that was our, you know, when me and Al weren't gigging, we were hanging out, all four of us. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And I do have a weird memory attached to Damian Rice, in that we went to the Corn Exchange to watch him in Oxford, maybe, or Cambridge. Cambridge Corn Exchange to watch him. And two things happened to that concert. Before it started, I went for a pre-gig wee, and Al Pitch...
Should have done that today.
And Al Pitcher said to me, because we both went in, and then he said, hey, you should see the graffiti that's in that toilet. And I go and look, and it's just a massive poo floating there. And it cracked me up. It cracked me up so much. And then during the gig, Damian Rice started a song too high-pitched, right? And so he stops and he goes, started that one too high-pitched. Do you know what I mean? And everyone laughed. And then he went quiet for a bit and was sort of playing with his guitar. And I said, you're doing really well. And everyone really laughed. And then he went, thank you. And then it dies down. And I went, seriously, you're really good, mate. And just got this massive laugh. And he really laughed. And kind of, you know, then just cracked into the song. And it just, for me, I was, you know, on a personal note, I was like, I've just got two real world laughs at a Damo Rice concert. Delighted.
Can't finish on anything better than that. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me. Are you still there? Edit.
A podcast from producer Paul.co.uk.